As people around the world focus on putting gas in their tanks and food on their tables, China is on the move, slowly, methodically, moving to dominate world markets. Ignoring international sanctions, the Chinese Communist Party imported a record amount of Russian crude oil in May, nearly 2 million barrels a day. Our next guest says of greater concern to the future of the U.S. and Western security may be the CCP's dominance of rare earth metals. Luisa Moreno is president of Defense Metals Corp, one of the largest mineral exploration companies in the world. Dr. Moreno, good to have you with us. So as the world moves forward to embrace alternative forms of energy, I'm assuming there's a greater demand for, say, lithium right now, which is used in making batteries for electric vehicles. Most people are probably unaware that China dominates the global lithium supply. So tell us more about that and why we should be concerned.
So China is the largest producer of about 20 plus metals, elements, materials that are critical for the green transition, and that includes lithium. They don't necessarily mine. They're not the largest miners of lithium, but they are the ones that processes the lithium to the battery grade that is required for electric vehicles. They also not the largest producer of, for instance, cobalt that comes from the DRC in Africa, but they account for the largest portion of processing as well. And then the other example is, of course, rare earth elements that Defense Metals, the company that I am part of, is a focus on. So rare earths don't go into batteries, but they go into permanent magnet motors, the electric motors for the electric vehicles. Those are the most efficient and strongest magnets known, and they are critical for electric vehicles as well. And China produces about 60% of rare earth elements, but processes, refines about 85%, including the 40,000 tons that comes from Mountain Pass in the United States, that is mined in the United States and is exported to China, what is refined.
Well, let's talk about the implications of this. Let's just say hypothetical scenario here. They invade Taiwan, the U.S. resists, and then they say, okay, we're going to stop processing all this stuff and you won't get it.
Well, it wouldn't be something new. There were suggestions in the past that back in 2010, due to disputes, territorial disputes between China and Japan, that China threatened to halt exports of rare earths to Japan. That is well known, is documented, and then, fortunately, things got resolved. So can we end up in a similar situation? I surely hope not, because China does control 85% of the refining, and much higher percentages for some of the more critical elements that go into the electric vehicles, as well as wind turbines and some defense applications as well. So that would be of great concern if we go into a situation of conflict, or if we see a situation of conflict between the US and China over Taiwan, for instance. And there is certainly danger or risk that China might do that, especially if there is sanctions against China.
Let's look at some specifics here. What's the potential threat to U.S. national security and Western defenses then?
Oh, it's huge. It's very large. Now, granted, the defense industry has a very large budget, and they probably will be trying to recover these elements at very extremely high costs to get them. So it's not impossible to get them, but it would be at extremely ridiculous cost. So because again, China, some of these elements, like I said, China controls 100% of the production. And so there is a ridiculously high risk. Of course, I think U.S. keep some, they stockpile some of these critical materials, but beyond that period where they can, utilize the stockpiles, there will be really significant costs of development of that supply chain in order to secure that for defense applications.
And I've got to ask you about uranium. It's a very important component for nuclear weapons systems, and you're well versed in the Uranium One decision when the Obama administration signed off on the sale of that Canadian mining company to Russia. Today, despite the war in Ukraine, nearly half of U.S. uranium supply is purchased from Russia, its partners in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. How concerned should we be about that, uranium?
Yes, uranium is another important element for the energy transition that is important in CO2. So it is important effectively for the West, for the rest of the world, to be looking at diversifying, where we get these materials, and uranium is one of them for sure.
Okay, Dr. Luisa Moreno, President of Defense Metals Corporation, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.